back and forth between the White House and the special counsel. Is the president going to testify? So this letter to the Mueller folks saying, you know what, we don't think he has to.
His attorneys are dead right when they say they're not going to put the president in a chair facing Bob Mueller, because no good will come from that.
Our own Martha McCallum interviewed Trey Gowdy, and frankly, that interview is still reverberating.
When he made the statement, the FBI behaved exactly like my fellow citizens would want them to behave. Really?
Here we are, day 500 of the administration.
Everywhere you look, there's Trump progress. He's there for the forgotten man and the forgotten woman, not the cranks on cable TV.
The anti-Trump media still pushing those conspiracy theories about Melania Trump's absence in public.
They are obsessed. This is just another symptom of Trump derangement syndrome. And when they haven't had enough of attacking our president, they move along and they attack his family.
There was a note in the door stating that we had a violation, a flag violation. Excessive flag. We feel this is a patriotic act. It's about supporting our troops.
No! Is it possible? Of course, we say no, but one town in Massachusetts, small town, that last guy you heard there, he's a business owner. Maybe it's big town, little town, I don't know, I hadn't heard of it, but it's probably a wonderful medium-sized town. And this business owner said, I want flags on the corner. I do it every year from Memorial Day to the 4th of July to honor the vets, honor the fallen. And the town manager came up and said, excuse me, sir, you have excessive amount of flags on your property. They're trying to make him take them down. Instead, well, we're going to talk to him later.
We're going to find out how to send him more flags.
Yes.
I want to get his address. I want to say,
But
how
he
do our
already
viewers
did.
send him more
He
flags?
already filled the
Let's
lawn
double it.
with double the flags. So we're going to be talking to him later on in the show. You don't
Well
want to miss
done,
it. But good morning to all of you. Happy Sunday morning.
Great to
We
see
are
you.
happy to be here. And there's a lot of news,
Yeah.
as always, to get
Stick
to.
with us halfway through the show, but we're just getting started.
A lot of people talking this morning about this 20-page letter that the president's attorneys wrote in January to Robert Mueller, the special counsel, that basically laid out their case, why there should not be a subpoena to force him to testify in this case. Among other reasons, the big picture here is that the president's lawyers make the case that he has vast executive power, the president, and thus cannot face obstruction of justice charges. And in the case of James Comey, for example, firing him, he completely had the power to do that. So John Dowd and Jay Sekulow write, among other things, quote, could neither constitutionally nor legally constitute obstruction, because that would amount to him obstructing himself, basically laying it out there
He has
that
nothing
this
to hide
president has
here.
the power and he doesn't have anything to hide.
Yeah, and that he has the power, as they're saying, to shut this whole thing down. So the other question is, who leaks this, right? Because it has to benefit somebody. Does it benefit the Mueller team? Does it benefit the Trump team? And you could argue maybe it benefits both in some way, that the Mueller team could say, see, this is a perfect example of the president thinking he is above the law, and the Trump team saying, we've got nothing to hide here, and we do have certain powers and certain authorities to act.
Yeah, and we had Corey Lewandowski on earlier. He talked about how so much of this needs to be seen through the context of what was actually done as it pertains to Comey and what's actually not been done as it pertains to Mueller. He hasn't fired Mueller. The investigation, I've said it so many times I can't say it anymore, investigation is still going. Here's what Corey said earlier in the program.
So it goes right back to the biggest problem that this administration has had, which is leaks coming from either inside the building or somewhere within the administration. But I think the premise is exactly right. If the president were to ask me, and he never has, I would recommend not sitting down with the Mueller team, because what the Mueller team can do is they can write a report to the Department of Justice and ultimately to Congress on if there was any collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russia. This investigation has been taking place now to the tune of over $10 million for about a year and a half. It's time to end the investigation and tell the American people what we already know.
And that is exactly what the Trump attorneys are telling him. And Dershowitz, Dr. Dershowitz, who we have on the show all the time, saying you can't benefit in any way by sitting down with Robert Mueller and having this interview. It sounds like from listening to Rudy Giuliani, the president wants to have the sit down. He's saying, I have nothing to hide. Just let me answer these questions. They're saying, that's not a good idea.
I'm sure he's of two minds of it, because if you're guilty, you don't sit down. But the president has said from the beginning that he's not guilty, that he's innocent. If we had any evidence, it would be emblazoned. I said this before, and I mean it. It would be a permanent banner on CNN.
You think they have it ready to go?
They would have it ready to go, and it would burn on every screen because they would never take it down. If they had a crime, if they had collusion, they'd do it already. So you have to think, we're 500 days into this presidency. Take stock. What has he done? What's been done to him? What's he done? He fired Comey, has the prerogative to do so. That's what they're defending. And he said a lot of bad things about Bob Mueller, because Bob Mueller's been going after him in what he calls a witch hunt. What's been done to him? Endless lies, endless leaks, spies or informants, however you want to say it, unrelenting resistance, first from never-Trumpers, then from the media, then from the Democrats.
You know what he's also done? Is in this statement.
Has he colluded with Russia?
Well, there's no evidence of that.
None.
But
Thank
in this
you.
20-page letter from the president's own attorneys, they say he dictated the statement to the New York Times about the Donald Trump Jr. meeting in the summer of 2016 at Trump Tower. Why is that significant? Well, Jay Sekulow, one of the attorneys who co-wrote this 20-page letter, he said back in July of 2017 that the president had nothing to do with the statement and had nothing to do with it. So which version of the Trump attorney
okay, so is that what you're hinging the entire argument about Russian collusion?
That would be one example.
That's what it's coming down to.
But if you're innocent, why are your lawyers telling two different things?
Let's get someone tripped up because you're under siege from all sides, from every news.
They made me not tell the truth.
13 angry Democrats investigating you.
Angry Democrats made me do it.
I think you make a good point. Those would be some of the questions that Robert Mueller would ask President Trump. They're going to get into the weeds.
I'm not saying that proves guilt. But if you're innocent, why did your attorney say in July of 2017? He had nothing to do with that statement. Then in January of 2018, you write a 20-page letter to the special counsel saying he dictated the statement.
That's exactly why you don't sit down, because it's a lose-lose.
Because the
when
facts.
You're innocent. When you're innocent and you didn't do anything wrong and they're trying to trip you up, why give them a chance to do it?
So what
do you think?
That's not going to prove collusion. I don't know. Let us know. Friends at FoxNews.com. Clearly, we're debating this morning.
You know who I
the
wonder?
camera's off, it even gets more ferocious. But it's a lot of fun to talk.
I wonder what someone thinks about this. Barack Obama.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about him in a long time, but there's a new book that came out this week. Ben Rhodes, who of course was on his national security team, and he talks about Barack Obama and how he felt about the election and after. This was right after Trump won, right? Do we have the quote we could put up?
Yep.
It
He's
says
in a motorcade. He talks about a conversation he's having with the president. President says to Ben Rhodes from this book, he says, "What if we were wrong? Maybe we pushed too far," Mr. Obama said. "Maybe people just want to fall back into their tribe. Sometimes I wonder whether I was 10 or 20 years too early," implying he was sophisticated. He was a man beyond his time.
It's all about him,
and we retreated to
Trump. It's all about him. Maybe
the country wasn't ready for me yet. So if you're wondering how to analyze this, Maureen Dowd did it for you. And here's what she says. She said, he is saying that sadly, we were not enlightened enough for the momentous changes wrought by the smartest people in the world, or even evolved enough for the first African-American president. We just weren't ready for his amazing awesomeness.
Is she teasing the Obama people in the New York Times with that? They're amazing.
No, but she goes on. She says, but by the end of his second term, he had lost the narrative about lifting up people, about buoying them on economic issues and soothing their jitters about globalization. They need to know what is in it for them. Yet Obama ignored the restiveness here and around the world. He threw his weight behind the most status quo, elitist candidate. Those are
that
strong
last
words.
point I think is really important for Maureen Dowd in the New York Times this morning, because was he a sellout, basically? For all the high-mindedness in this book from Ben Rhodes and all the statements from Barack Obama, he made some sort of speech, I think, in recent days as well, about there were no scandals in my administration. They were so perfect and all of that. And then why did he back this flawed candidate, this flawed establishment candidate? If he was such a change agent, why didn't he go with Bernie Sanders, or why didn't he go with some other Democrat who was new and different and was going to take this country to this higher place he's talking about? Instead, he went with what seemed like the safest, most establishment, but flawed email and FBI investigation candidate.
10 or 20 years too early that the country wasn't ready for him. Pete and I were talking about this in the commercial break. He can still run again, right? 10 years after he left office.
You just 2 consecutive terms. You could take one off and come back.
He could take on Donald Trump in 2020.
Isn't that something that would be challenged, though?
Why? I don't know. Maybe it would be. I don't know. But
Nobody's tested it.
It's all so
Why not?
very condescending. You know, it's like, we're so smart. Us globalist elites, you know, with our international citizenship and their dreams of borderless worlds, we want to fundamentally transform America. And you just don't get it yet. You're just not there. You're in your tribe. You're wearing your red hat. You're deplorable. You know, you're not
like
ready
sports.
for it. The explanation is we were too cool. Like, Obama was too awesome.
You know what? There are a lot of people in this
country.
country.
Well, we were clean to our guns, too.
Well, a lot of people just don't want the country to change. They want to get back to actually what made this country originally the very best in the world.
And you can fix the problems, you know, racial divides and other things. That doesn't mean you want to go backwards in time. It means let's remember what makes America special, which is freedom, and then we can love each other in the process.
And learn from those mistakes.
Exactly.
All the mistakes that we learned from all those years. Yeah. It's an interesting conversation, interesting sound bites.
Just started.
We just gave you Ben Rhodes' book. You don't have to buy it.
Some other headlines we are following closely this morning, starting with a Fox News alert, a potential serial killer case in Arizona. Police think a 4th deadly shooting could be related to 3 others in the Phoenix area. The latest victim, a psychologist and counselor, shot dead at an office building. Police already connected the slayings of 2 paralegals to the killing of yet another victim. Permanent forensic psychiatrist Dr. Stephen Pitt worked on the murder investigation of Colorado child queen bee Joe Made Ramsey. Remember that case? Police releasing this sketch of a possible suspect. Also, overnight, China warning it will back out of any new trade agreement if the U.S. raises tariffs. President Trump has threatened to increase tariffs of up to $150 billion of Chinese imports. China's stance comes as President Trump's team spent the weekend over in China for high-level trade talks. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross was the one leading those negotiations. And Syria's president reportedly wants to meet Kim Jong-un. North Korea state media is reporting that Bashar al-Assad recently expressed his interest in traveling to the rogue nation. There has been no indication a meeting has been arranged. The report comes as the international community awaits the highly anticipated June 12th meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un in Singapore.
Wow.
You got Russia jumping on board. Now
Yeah.
Syria, everyone's sort of wanting a
Well,
place
we
in
can
this.
talk to somebody that knows about Russia.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Maybe the
we will.
ambassador. He's coming up. Also, former House Speaker John Boehner says the Republican Party he knew is gone, and it's been replaced by what he calls the Trump Party. Former White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus is here to respond.